I arrived at my house and my car was not in the garage. My daughter-in-law came out smiling. "Mother-in-law, we sold your car. You don't even use it anymore." I stared at her and answered calmly, "That's good. Now there's space for when I kick you out of my house." She never imagined that smile would freeze so fast. I had been gone for 3 days. 3 days visiting my sister Dorothy in Phoenix, trying to breathe air that didn't smell like tension, like unsaid words, like that constant feeling of being a foreigner in my own home. When the bus dropped me off at the corner of my neighborhood, I felt that strange relief of returning to the place where you were born, where you raised your children, where your husband kissed you for the last time before he passed. I walked the 2 blocks, pulling my little rolling suitcase, the one Victor gave me when I turned 60, because he said a woman like me deserved to travel with dignity. And as I turned onto my street, something in my chest tightened. I didn't know what it was yet, just a gut feeling, the kind that scream at us older women and always end up being right. The blue gate of my house was halfway open. That was already strange. I always locked it. Always. I pushed it open slowly, and that's when I saw it. Or rather, when I didn't see it. The garage was empty. My green sedan, my companion for 15 years, the last gift Victor gave me before the cancer took him, was gone. I just stood there, suitcase in hand, feeling the afternoon sun burning the back of my neck, but unable to move. It was as if someone had erased a piece of my life, because that car wasn't just metal and tires. It was mornings driving to church. It was going to the market on Saturdays. It was feeling like I could still move through the world without asking anyone for permission. And then I heard it. That laugh. That laugh I had learned to recognize in recent months as the sound of something bad about to happen. Amber came out of the house, drying her hands on a kitchen towel. My kitchen. My towel. With that smile she used when she thought she had won something. She was wearing a new blouse, the kind that costs what I used to spend at the market in a whole month. Her hair was freshly done, her nails painted bright red. "Mother-in-law, it's so good you're back," she said with that sing-songy voice she used when she wanted to sound innocent. "We wanted to tell you, but we got so busy with everything." I said nothing, just looked at her waiting, because I already knew. My whole body already knew. "We sold your car." She said it just like that, like someone announcing they bought bread. "You don't even use it, mother-in-law. It's just sitting there collecting dust, costing money on registration. Daniel and I needed the money for a few things, and well, it's done. We sold it yesterday." And the world stopped. It wasn't dramatic. There was no background music or slow motion. It was worse. It was that silence where everything inside you breaks, but on the outside, you're still standing. Because that's how we were taught. To endure, to swallow it, to smile even when they're ripping your soul to pieces. Before I continue telling you what happened that day, let me ask you something. If this story is touching your heart, give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Because what's coming will show you that even the most silent woman has a limit. And when that limit is crossed, the ground itself trembles. Amber kept talking, something about how they got $500, that it was a good price for such an old car, that they needed it to pay off some debts. But I wasn't listening anymore. I was looking through her at the empty garage, at the space where every morning I caressed the steering wheel before starting the engine and whispered to Victor, "Another day, my love, another day without you, but with what you left me." That car was the last thing that smelled like him, like his cologne, like the way he adjusted the mirror, like his hands on the wheel when he taught me to drive at 50, because he said a woman shouldn't depend on anyone to get through life. And this woman, this intruder dressed in expensive clothes, bought with money she didn't earn, had taken it from me, without asking me, without even having the decency to tell me. I felt something rise in my throat. It wasn't tears. It was something older, more dangerous. It was that fire we women carry hidden for years, waiting for the exact moment to burn. Amber stopped talking when she saw my face. Her smile barely trembled. She realized perhaps that she had crossed an invisible line. "Mother-in-law," she asked without that sweet little voice, "are you okay?" I looked her directly in the eyes. That kind of look that only women who have given birth, buried their dead, and survived betrayals can give. That look that doesn't need to scream because it's sharper than any knife. "It's great that you sold the car, Amber." My voice came out calm, too calm. "That way there's space for when I kick you out of my house." I saw how the smile froze on her face, how her eyes widened slightly, processing what she had just heard, how the towel slipped from her hands. "What did you say? You heard me?" I picked up my suitcase and walked toward the door. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to rest in my house." I walked past her, and the smell of her expensive perfume made me sick. I entered my living room, my space, and the first thing I saw was Daniel, my son, my only son, sitting on the couch that his father and I bought when we got married. His eyes were red. He didn't look at me when I came in, and right there, I knew. I knew with that certainty that only a mother's pain can give. He knew. He had let it happen. He had chosen. And he hadn't chosen me. I went up to my room without saying another word. I closed the door. I sat on the edge of my bed, that bed where I slept with Victor for 32 years, and I let the silence wrap around me. I didn't cry yet, because crying was accepting defeat. And something told me this story was just beginning. Something told me they didn't know who they had messed with, because the woman who loved in silence, the one who cooked without complaints, the one who smiled even when it hurt, that woman had just died in the empty garage, and the one who was left was ready for war. Do you want to know what happened next? Wait for the next chapter, because what I discovered that night changed everything. To understand how I got to that moment, standing in front of an empty garage looking at my daughter-in-law as if she were a stranger, I have to take you back 3 years, to the day I opened my door believing I was being a good mother without knowing I was signing my own death sentence. It had only been 4 months since I buried Victor. 4 months of living in a house that suddenly felt the size of an empty stadium. Every room held his voice. Every corner smelled of his absence. I would get up at 5 in the morning, not because I had anything to do, but because the bed without him was a constant reminder of everything I had lost. Daniel came to visit me on Sundays. He brought donuts from the bakery I liked. He sat with me to drink coffee. He asked me how I was, and I lied. I told him I was fine, that I was calm, that I was learning to live alone, because that's what mothers do. We lie so our children don't have to carry our pain. That Sunday in October, he arrived differently. He had a woman on his arm, Amber. The first time I saw her, I thought she was pretty. She had that kind of beauty you see in magazines. Clear skin, long shiny hair, a perfect smile. She was wearing a tight dress that showed she took care of herself, that she went to the gym, that she knew how to get attention. She hugged me with a perfume so strong it made me a little dizzy. Mother-in-law, so great to finally meet you. Daniel has told me so much about you. Mother-in-law, from the very beginning, as if we were already family, as if with that little pet name she could skip all the steps of trust. Mom, Daniel said, and in his eyes I saw something I hadn't seen since he was a boy. Hope. We got married 2 weeks ago at the courthouse. We wanted to tell you in person. I was left with the coffee cup suspended in the air. Married, my son had gotten married, and I wasn't there. There was no invitation, no wedding dress, no moment where the groom's mother hugs her son and tells him, "Be happy, my son, be happy." But I swallowed it. I smiled. I hugged them. How wonderful. Congratulations to you both. Amber laughed, with that bell-like laugh I would later learn to hate. It's just that it all happened so fast, mother-in-law. We met, we fell in love, and we said, why wait? Life is short. You have to live it. She was right about that last part. Life is short. Victor had proven that to me when he left without warning, without giving me time to prepare for a world without him. We sat down to eat. Amber talked the whole time about her job at a boutique downtown, about how hard it was to find an apartment because everything was so expensive, about how much she wanted to start a family with Daniel. She said it all with that energy young people have, that certainty that the world owes them something, and then she dropped it. Mother-in-law, we wanted to ask you a huge favor. She leaned toward me, putting her hand on mine. Would you let us stay here for just 2 months? We're looking for an apartment, but with my salary and Daniel's, we can barely scrape together enough for the deposit. If we save on rent for 2 months, we can make it. I looked at Daniel. He wasn't looking at me. His eyes were fixed on his plate, moving the rice from one side to the other with his fork. 2 months, 60 days. Company in this house that swallowed me alive every night. My son's voice in the hallway again. Maybe even grandchildren soon. A reason to get up with energy. Of course, son. This is your house. It always has been. Amber hugged me so tight she almost knocked me out of my chair. Oh, mother-in-law, you don't know how much we appreciate this. I promise you won't even notice we're here. We're clean, organized, super quiet. 2 months, she said. The 2 months turned into 4 when Amber said the apartment they were going to rent was given to someone else. Bad luck, mother-in-law, but another one will turn up. The 4 became 6 when Daniel lost his job at the auto parts factory. It's temporary, Mom. I'm already sending out resumes. I just need a little more time. The year mark passed, and I was still waiting for them to say, Mom, we found a place. Thanks for everything. But those words never came. What did come was the change. At first, it was small details. Amber moved the living room furniture because it looks more modern this way, mother-in-law. She changed the kitchen curtains without asking me. She brought her own dishes and stored mine, the ones my mother gave me when I got married, on the highest shelf where I I could barely reach. She started cooking. She said she wanted to help me, that I had already worked hard enough in my life, but the truth was, she didn't want me in my kitchen. She would look at me impatiently when I tried to make coffee in the mornings, as if I were in the way. "Why don't you sit down, mother-in-law? I'll bring your coffee to your room." To my room, as if the rest of the house wasn't mine anymore. Then came the rules. "Mother-in-law, do you mind not playing so much music in the mornings? Daniel works late and needs to rest." "Mother-in-law, maybe don't invite your friends over during the week. We need to concentrate." "Mother-in-law, can you let us know when you're going out, just so we don't worry?" Let them know. In my own house, asking permission to invite the friends who had been visiting me since I was 20 years old. But the worst part wasn't the rules. The worst part was Daniel. My son had become a ghost. He left early, came home late. When I tried to talk to him, Amber always showed up with something. That she needed help with the computer, that they had to go see an apartment, that they had an important appointment. One afternoon, I found him alone on the patio smoking, something he had never done. "Son, are you okay?" "Yeah, Mom, everything's fine." "Really? Because I feel like we don't talk like we used to." He was quiet for a moment. I saw something in his eyes, something like guilt or fear. I couldn't tell which. "It's just been tough, Mom. The new job doesn't pay as well. Amber and I are saving, but it takes time. There's no rush, son. I'm not kicking you out." "I know." He finally looked at me. "Thanks for everything, Mom. Really." He hugged me, and in that hug I felt something strange, as if he were saying goodbye, as if an invisible wall had appeared between us, a wall that grew a little thicker every day. That wall had a name, Amber. 2 full years passed. 24 months of watching my house stop being mine, watching my son look at me less, watching the space where I had raised a family, buried my husband, kept my memories, fill up with things I didn't recognize. The neighbors started asking me, "Mrs. Gable, who lived next door for 30 years, found me at the market. Emily, what's going on with your daughter-in-law? The other day I asked her for you and she said you were resting, as if she's the owner of your house." Mrs. Miller, who sold tacos from a food truck on the corner, told me more directly. "That girl is going around saying the house belongs to both of them now, that you're getting old and they're taking care of you. Just letting you know, Emily, in case you didn't know." I didn't know, or I didn't want to know, until one night I heard something that broke me in two. It was almost 11. I couldn't sleep as usual. I went down to the kitchen for a glass of water and heard them talking in the living room, Amber and her mother Brenda, who had come to visit. "I'm telling you, Mom, the old woman is getting up there. She's not going to last much longer. When she dies, all this goes to Daniel, and Daniel does what I say." "And if she doesn't die soon?" Brenda asked with a laugh that chilled my skin. "Well, we convince her to go to a nursing home or something. Get her to sell the house and give us our share. I mean, what's she going to do here all alone?" They both laughed. I stood there barefoot on the cold floor, the empty glass in my hand, feeling how each word drove into my chest like a rusty nail. The old woman, our share. What's she going to do with it? I didn't drink any water that night. I went up to my room. I sat on the bed, and for the first time in 3 years, I allowed myself to see the whole truth. They weren't guests. They were invaders, and I had opened the door for them myself, but I still didn't know how much more there was to discover. I still didn't know that in a forgotten drawer, Victor had left me the key to escape this nightmare. I would discover that soon, and when I did, everything would change. What do you think Emily found in that drawer? What comes next will leave you speechless. There's a huge difference between feeling something is wrong and seeing it with your own eyes, between suspecting they're taking your place and witnessing it second by second, unable to do anything, or worse, not daring to do anything. After that night, I heard Amber call me the old woman. Something inside me changed. It wasn't a loud change. It was quiet, like those cracks that appear in the walls of an old house. Nobody notices them until one day the wall collapses. I started to watch, really watch. I realized Amber had redecorated almost the entire house without me noticing. Or maybe I had noticed, but I had chosen not to see, because seeing hurts. Seeing forces you to act. The paintings Victor and I had bought on our trips to Santa Fe, New Orleans, and Charleston were no longer in the living room. In their place were huge photographs of Amber and Daniel. One from their courthouse wedding, another from a trip to the beach I didn't know they had taken, another one where they posed in front of some fancy restaurant. The embroidered pillows my mother gave me when Daniel was born disappeared. Now there were modern ones from those expensive stores, all gray and black, cold, without history. Even the plants on the porch, my red geraniums that had been with me since I got married were replaced with succulents in minimalist pots, as if everything that smelled like me, like my life, like my years, had to be erased. But what hurt the most wasn't the things. It was the way they treated me. One morning I came down for breakfast early. It was 7. I had always been an early riser. I liked to watch the sunrise with a hot cup of coffee, listen to the birds in the patio tree, feel that the day was just beginning and anything was possible. Amber was already in the kitchen. She was wearing a silk robe, the kind that costs more than my groceries for a month, and she was making a smoothie in the blender. My blender, the one I used to make red salsa on Sundays. "Good morning," I said. She turned and looked at me with annoyance, not even trying to hide it. "Oh, mother-in-law, so early." She turned off the blender. "I have to work out in half an hour and I need to concentrate. Can you have breakfast later? Or if you want, I can make you something and bring it to your room." My room. That phrase again, as if I were a tenant in my own house. "Don't worry," I said with the calmest voice I could manage. "I just came for some coffee." "Better not, mother-in-law. Caffeine isn't good at your age. It'll raise your blood pressure." She pulled out a small box of herbal tea. "Here, this is healthier." And I, like a fool, took the tea. I went to my room. I closed the door. And I drank that bitter tea, feeling how every sip was me swallowing my pride, my rage, my dignity. Things kept getting worse. My friends Hazel, Edna, and Mrs. C had been visiting me for 30 years. Every Thursday we got together to play cards, drink coffee, gossip a little. It was my ritual, my time to feel like myself again. One Thursday they arrived as always. They rang the bell. I ran to open it, excited to see them, but Amber got there first. "Yes," she said with a forced smile. "We're here to see Emily," said Hazel, who has never let anyone intimidate her. "Oh, what a shame my mother-in-law isn't feeling well. She's resting. Maybe another day, okay?" And she closed the door. I was standing right there in the hallway, perfectly fine, listening to my daughter-in-law lie to their faces, watching my friends leave, confused, maybe thinking I didn't want to see them anymore. "Why did you do that?" I asked her when she turned around. "Oh, mother-in-law, the house is a mess." I was embarrassed for them to see it like this. Besides, you know you need to rest. At your age, all that excitement isn't good. "Those are my friends, Amber." "Yes, I know, and that's exactly why I'm taking care of you, mother-in-law." She patted my shoulder as if I were a child. "You trust me." I didn't say anything else. I went up to my room, and that afternoon, for the first time in a long time, I cried. I cried from rage, from helplessness, from shame at myself for letting myself be cornered like this. But the worst hadn't happened yet. One afternoon, I was on the patio, watering the few plants I had left, when I heard voices in the living room. Amber was with someone. I peeked discreetly. It was Eleanor, the neighbor from across the street, one of those women who likes to know everything about everyone. "And how is Mrs. Emily?" Eleanor asked with that tone of feigned curiosity. "Oh, my mother-in-law. Poor thing. She's getting more delicate every day." Amber lowered her voice, but not so much that I couldn't hear. "Between you and me, Eleanor, she's losing her memory. The other day she forgot where she left her keys and then accused me of hiding them. Can you imagine? My blood ran cold. Really." Eleanor's eyes went wide. "Yes, Daniel and I are very worried. That's why we don't let her go out alone. You know how the streets are so dangerous and she's so absent-minded." "Poor lady." Eleanor nodded with compassion. Amber kept talking, saying they were thinking of taking me to the doctor, that maybe I needed special care, that it was a blessing they were there to look after me. I was 67 years old, not 77. I wasn't senile. I hadn't lost any keys. She made up that lie completely, but Eleanor believed her. And if Eleanor believed her, the whole neighborhood would too. That's how it works, right? You repeat a lie enough times and people start to see it as truth. She was painting me as an incapable old woman, as a burden, as someone who needed to be saved, when in reality, the only one who needed saving was me from her. That night at dinner, Daniel came home from work. He looked tired. He always looked tired. He sat at the table without saying anything. Amber served him the food, which I had prepared by the way, but she took the credit. "Son," I tried to talk to him. "Can we talk for a minute?" "Not right now, Mom. I'm really tired." "It's important," Amber interrupted him. "Daniel, honey, did you remember to pay the gas bill?" "No, I forgot." "Well, we're going to run out and we still have to pay the electricity." "Oh, I don't know what we're going to do." Daniel rubbed his face with his hands. He looked defeated, worn out. "We'll figure it out, Amber. We'll figure it out." I watched them from my place at the table. At that table where I had celebrated Daniel's birthdays, where I had eaten with Victor every night for 32 years, where I had cried when my mom died, and where I had laughed when Daniel said his first word. And now I felt like a stranger, like someone who was extra. "I pay the gas and electricity," I said quietly. "I've always paid them." Amber looked at me with that condescending smile. "Yes, mother-in-law, but it's a lot of expense for you alone." Better let us help. You already do enough by letting us live here. Letting them live here, as if they were doing me a favor, as if this house wasn't mine, as if I was the one who should be grateful that they were occupying my space, eating my food, breathing my air. Daniel said nothing. He just kept eating with his head down. And right there, I understood something terrible. My son had abandoned me without leaving. He was there in front of me, but his head, his heart, his decisions, none of it included me anymore. Amber had achieved what she wanted. She had pushed him away from me without him even realizing it. Or maybe he did realize it, but he didn't care. I couldn't sleep that night. I stayed awake until 3 in the morning, staring at the ceiling, feeling the walls of my room closing in on me. I thought about Victor, about what he would say if he could see me like this. He was always a strong man, a man who didn't back down, who defended what was his, who defended me. Emily, he used to tell me, you are stronger than you think. Don't let anyone make you feel small. But I did feel small, invisible, erased. I had reached the lowest point, the place where a woman asks herself if it's worth fighting anymore, or if it's better to just give up, let them take everything, make herself small, disappear. But something, a little voice buried deep inside, whispered to me that this couldn't be the end of my story, that there had to be another way out. And there was. It was stored in a drawer I hadn't opened in 3 years, in a letter written in the shaky handwriting of a man who loved me until his last breath. I just had to find it. What do you think that letter said? What Emily is about to discover will change the entire game. There are nights when insomnia isn't your enemy, it's your ally. It forces you to face what you've been avoiding for days. It puts you in front of the decisions you've postponed. It pushes you toward the dark corners where you stored the things that hurt too much to look at. That night was one of them. It was 4 in the morning. The house was silent. That thick silence that only exists when everyone is asleep but you. I got out of bed without turning on the light. I didn't want to wake anyone. I didn't want Amber to come out of her room, which used to be my mom's sewing room, to ask me what I was doing awake, to tell me to take a pill, to treat me like a child. I walked barefoot to the closet. That closet I hadn't gone through properly in years because every time I opened it, it smelled like Victor, like his cologne, like his clothes, like everything he was and would never be again. In the back behind the boxes of old shoes and winter blankets was the wooden box, the one Victor had made himself in the workshop on the patio when we were still 20. I traced it with my fingers. It was dusty, forgotten. I pulled it out carefully. It was heavier than I remembered. I sat on the floor with the box on my lap and took a deep breath. I knew that inside there were things that would break me. Photos from when we were young. Letters we wrote when he was working in Monterey and I stayed here pregnant with Daniel. Movie tickets. Napkins from restaurants where we celebrated anniversaries. A whole life stored in a piece of wood. I opened the lid slowly and there it was. Everything. Like an avalanche of memories that hit me in the chest. I saw our wedding photo blurry with time. I saw the first lock of Daniel's hair saved in a yellowed envelope. I saw the birthday cards I had given Victor every year with my cheesy messages written in blue pen. But then at the bottom of the box, I saw something I didn't remember putting there. A thick white envelope sealed with packing tape. On the front, in Victor's shaky handwriting, that handwriting that got difficult for him in his last months because of the chemo, it said, "For Emily, open this only if anyone ever tries to take away what we built together." My breath caught. My hands trembled as I broke the seal. Inside were several folded documents and a handwritten letter. I turned on the small lamp on the nightstand, put on my glasses, and started to read. "My dearest Emily, if you are reading this, it's because something went wrong, because someone, and I have my suspicions about who it might be, is trying to take advantage of you. Forgive me for not telling you this sooner. I didn't want to worry you when I was sick. I didn't want you to spend my last days thinking about papers and properties instead of being with me. But I need you to know something. I need you to have the weapons to defend yourself when I'm no longer here. 5 years ago, when the auto parts business was at its best, I bought 2 more properties besides our house. I did it thinking about our future so we would have something secure in case I was gone one day. They are registered only in your name, Emily. Only your name. No one else can claim them. I also bought a small apartment in a complex downtown. I rented it to a trustworthy family. The money from that rent goes directly into a bank account I opened for you. The number is in the documents I've included. Every month, $850 goes in. It's not much, but it's yours. It's your freedom. Daniel doesn't know anything about this. Forgive me me for hiding it from him, but I saw something in him that worried me. I saw that he is weak sometimes, that he lets himself be swayed easily by whoever shouts the loudest or promises him things. And I was afraid that if he knew about these properties, someone, his wife, a friend, whoever, would convince him to take them from you. This is yours, Emily. Only yours. Don't let anyone make you feel like you're worthless. Don't let them convince you that you're a burden. You are the strongest woman I have ever known. The one who raised our son alone while I traveled. The one who took care of my mom when she was sick. The one who held my hand in the hospital when I was afraid of dying. You are a warrior, my love, and warriors don't give up. If you need help, look for Mr. Medina. He's been my lawyer for life. He has copies of everything. Trust him like you trusted me. Forgive me for leaving you. Forgive me for not being there to defend you. But I'm leaving you these properties, this money, this letter. I'm leaving you, my love. And no one can take that away from you. Always yours, Victor. Tears fell onto the paper. They smudged the ink, but it didn't matter anymore because those words were already engraved on my heart. Victor knew. Somehow he knew. He knew someone would come. Maybe not Amber specifically, but someone, to try and take what was mine. And he had left me a shield. I took out the documents. They were deeds legal and sealed. Property 1, a small house in the suburbs, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, rented to a family paying $600 a month. Those payments went to the same bank account Victor mentioned. Property 2, a commercial space on a main strip, rented to a lady who sold herbs and remedies, $420 a month. Property 3, the apartment downtown, the one generating $850 a month. I did the math quickly in my head. Between the 3 properties, $870 was coming in every month, almost $1,900 that I didn't know I had. I looked for the paper with the account number. It was there. Bank of America, Main Street branch. I got dressed in silence. I put on a sweater. I grabbed my purse. I went down the stairs without making a sound. I left the house just as the sun was rising. The sky had that pale orange color that announces a new day. I walked the 4 blocks to the ATM on the corner. I put in the card that came with the documents. I entered the PIN that Victor had written down, and there on the bright green screen of the ATM, the balance appeared. $28,745. Almost $30,000 that had been there for 3 years, growing month by month, waiting for me. I had to lean against the wall of the ATM. My legs were shaking. It wasn't just because of the money. It was because of what it meant. It meant I wasn't alone. It meant I had options. It meant I didn't need to put up with this for one more day. I returned to the house with the sun already up. Amber was in the kitchen, making her usual smoothie. "Good morning, mother-in-law. Went to the store this early?" "Yes," I said with a smile. "I went to get something I had forgotten." She looked at me strangely. Maybe she noticed something different in my voice, something that wasn't there before. I went up to my room. I put the documents in a safe place, and I took out my old cell phone, the one I barely used because Amber said that at my age, I didn't need such gadgets. And I looked for the number Victor had left. Mr. Ruben Medina, attorney at law. I dialed. The phone rang 3 times. "Hello, Mr. Medina, good morning. This is Emily Montoya, Victor Solis's widow." There was a silence, then a warm voice. "Mrs. Emily, you finally called. Mr. Solis made me promise I would help you if you ever needed anything. What can I do for you?" I took a deep breath. "I need you to help me defend what's mine, Mr. Medina, because they want to take it from me, and I'm not going to let them anymore. Come to my office tomorrow at 10, and bring the documents your husband left you. We're going to put all of this in order." I hung up, and for the first time in 3 years, I genuinely smiled. Amber thought I was weak. She thought she could trample me into nothing. Daniel thought I would put up with anything just to not lose him. But neither of them knew what I had just discovered, that Victor, even from the grave, was still taking care of me, that I had more power than they ever imagined, and that the war was just about to begin. That morning, I ate breakfast peacefully. Amber served me the usual herbal tea. I drank it without complaining. I smiled. I nodded at everything she said, because the best battles are won in silence, when the enemy thinks they've already won. But before Emily could act, something worse was about to happen, something that would break her completely, and that would force her to make the most difficult decision of her life. There are moments in life that mark you forever. Moments where a line is crossed and there's no going back, where the pain is so deep that it changes something fundamental inside you. This was one of those moments. It had been 2 weeks since I found Victor's letter. 2 weeks in which I had been gathering my strength, organizing papers, preparing myself for what was coming. The house, Mr. Medina had explained everything. The properties were mine, the house was mine. I could ask them to leave whenever I wanted, but I still had hope, that foolish hope that mothers have, the one that tells you that maybe, just maybe, if you talk to your son with an open heart, he'll understand, he'll react, he'll go back to being the boy who hugged you and said, "I love you, Mom," without anyone asking him to. I decided to try one last time. One Sunday afternoon when Daniel was home, I asked them to sit down and talk, the three of us, like a family. "We need to talk about something important," I said as I cleared the dishes from lunch. "It's about the situation with the house." I saw Amber and Daniel exchange a look. That look couples share when they know something you don't, when they've already talked about you behind your back and made decisions about your life without asking you. "Sure, Mom," Daniel said, "but maybe tomorrow, right? My in-laws and Amber's family are coming over today. They wanted to get to know you better." My heart sank. "What do you mean they're coming?" "Yes, mother-in-law." Amber smiled with that smile that already set my nerves on edge. "I told my family to come over so we can all talk together. You know, so we can get to know each other better. They're in the living room. They hadn't asked me. They hadn't told me. They simply invited people to my house without my permission." I swallowed hard. I took a deep breath and I went out to the living room. There they all were, Steve and Amber's dad. A heavy man with a thick mustache, a polo shirt stretched over his belly, and the attitude of someone who thinks his opinion is worth more than everyone else's. He was sitting in my favorite armchair, the one Victor used to watch the news, with his legs spread as if he owned the place. Brenda, Amber's mom, thin with dyed blonde hair and long purple nails. She had that face of someone who is always judging, who sees everything that's wrong but never what's right. She looked me up and down when I entered, as if measuring the value of my clothes, my hairstyle, my existence. Ryan, Amber's younger brother, a 23-year-old kid who didn't put down his phone even to breathe. He didn't even greet me when I walked by. And Beatrice, Amber's aunt, a woman in her 50s with too much makeup and too many bracelets that jangled every time she moved her hands. She was carrying a knockoff designer bag from a flea market and had helped herself to cookies from my pantry on a plate as if she were at home. "Good afternoon," I said, trying to sound polite. "Oh, mother-in-law, good you're here." Amber pulled me by the arm and sat me down in a chair. "Look, this is my family. I've told them so much about you." Stephen extended his hand. I shook it. "A pleasure, Mrs. Emily. Amber has told us you're a very kind woman. Thank you for welcoming our girl into your home." "Thank you for welcoming." As if Amber were a temporary guest, as if she hadn't been taking over everything for 3 years. Brenda just nodded. She didn't smile. "Sit, sit," said Beatrice, pointing to my own chair. "We want to talk with you." I sat down. I felt all eyes on me as if I were the one visiting, the one who had to behave well to make a good impression. Daniel sat next to Amber. She took his hand. He wouldn't look at me. "Well, Mrs. Emily," Stephen began in a loud voice, as if he were in a business meeting, "we want to talk to you about the future of this family." "The future?" I asked. "Yes, you see, our Amber and your son Daniel have been here for a while, and well, it's time we had a serious conversation about how we're going to organize things." I didn't understand where this was going. I looked at Daniel. He still wouldn't look at me. Amber cleared her throat. "Mother-in-law, the thing is, Daniel and I have been living here for 3 years, and well, we want to make things official." "Make things official?" "Yes, we want you to put the house in all of our names, in the family's name." She smiled as if she were offering me a favor. "That way, if something ever happens to you, well, everything is already settled, no legal problems or anything." My heart stopped. "In all of your names?" "Yes, mother-in-law. It's only fair, right? After all, this house belongs to the family, and we are your family." "Say!" Brenda intervened. "Look, Mrs. Emily, at your age, it's not good for you to carry so much responsibility. The taxes, the maintenance, all of that. Better let us help you. We'll take care of it, and you can live peacefully." "I live peacefully," I said with a trembling voice. "This is my house. My husband and I paid for it over 30 years. Stephen laughed a loud laugh. "Oh, Mrs. Emily, don't be like that. Nobody is taking anything from you. We just want you to be practical." He leaned toward me. "Look, be honest. What are you going to do all alone in this big house? You're older now, you can't handle all this." "I can handle it perfectly," I replied, feeling the anger start to rise in my throat. Beatrice let out a nervous giggle. "Oh, don't be offended, Mrs. Emily, but it's the truth. At your age, the best thing would be to go to a more appropriate place." "Appropriate?" "Well, yes. A nursing home or a smaller house. There are some very nice ones upstate. You could be peaceful there without worries, and this house would stay for the kids who are young and need it more." A silence fell. I looked at Daniel. "Please, son." I thought, say something, defend me. Tell them they're crazy. Tell them this is your mom's house and no one has the right to tell her to leave. But Daniel just stared at the floor. His fists clenched, his jaw tight, but silent. Cowardly silent. "I'm not going anywhere," I said in a firm voice. "This house is mine, and I'm not putting it in anyone's name." Stephen sighed as if I were a bratty child. Mrs. Emily, don't be stubborn. Be grateful. My daughter is taking care of you. She cooks for you, she cleans, she looks out for you. The least you can do is cooperate. I haven't asked her to do any of that, I replied, feeling the tears wanting to come out, but I wouldn't let them. This is my house, and I decide who lives here. Brenda stood up from the couch. Well, then tell them to leave, she challenged me. If the house is so yours, kick them out. See if you dare to leave your own son on the street. There it was, the trap. The oldest manipulation in the world, using my son as an emotional hostage. Mom, Daniel finally spoke. His voice sounded tired, defeated. Maybe we should think about, I don't know, selling the house, dividing the money. We all start over. Something broke inside me. Something that has no name. Something that when it shatters can't be fixed the same way. Sell the house, I repeated. The house where you were born. The house where your father died. You want to sell this house. It's a lot for you alone, Mom, and we need the money. We could buy something smaller altogether, or you could rent an apartment and live peacefully. Amber squeezed his hand, smiling. Stephen stood up. That's it. That's the sensible thing to do. Sell this house, give Mrs. Emily her share. Let's say about $90,000, which is generous. And with the rest, the kids can buy something. Everyone wins. $90,000. From a house that was worth almost $300,000. They wanted to rob me right in front of my face. With smiles and nice words, they wanted to strip me of the only thing I had left. I stood up trembling. I want you to leave, I said. What did you say? Brenda asked. I said leave, all of you, now. Stephen laughed. Mrs. Emily, calm down. Don't be dramatic. Get out of my house, I screamed. The silence was brutal. No one moved. They all looked at me as if I had gone crazy, as if I were the unreasonable one, the bad guy in the story. Daniel stood up and took my arm. Mom, calm down. Sit down. I yanked my arm away. Don't tell me to calm down, not after this. I left the living room. I went up the stairs. I went into my room. I locked the door, and there alone I fell apart. I cried like I hadn't cried since I buried Victor. I cried from rage, from humiliation, from pain. I cried because my son, my only son, had betrayed me, because he had chosen money over me, because he had let that family of vipers treat me like trash in my own home. I heard them leave, heard the front door close, heard Amber telling Daniel, "You'll see, she'll get over it. She's just angry." I stayed there, lying on my bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling how something inside me was dying, and something else, something cold, something hard, was being born in its place. There was no going back. There was no forgiveness possible. Now came the war, and I had no intention of losing. What Emily did after that night would change everything, because when a woman decides she has nothing left to lose, she becomes invincible. There are two types of women in this world: those who cry and stay there waiting for someone to rescue them, and those who dry their tears, stand up and rescue their own lives. That night, I decided which one I belonged to. I stayed awake until the sun came up, not from insomnia, but because my brain wouldn't stop working, calculating, planning. Every humiliation I had suffered, every poisoned word, every look of contempt, it all turned into fuel. Victor always told me, "Emily, you have something many people don't. Patience. And patience used well is the most powerful weapon." He was right. At 6 in the morning, I got up. I showered. I put on my blue dress, the one I wore for important occasions. And I put on makeup. Not much, just enough to look like a woman who knows her worth. I went down to breakfast. Amber was already in the kitchen, as always. She looked at me surprised. "Good morning, mother-in-law. Are you over your tantrum from yesterday?" "Good morning, Amber," I replied with a soft smile. "Yes, forgive me. I think I overreacted. I was tired." She blinked. She wasn't expecting that. "Oh, don't worry. We all have our days." She came closer and touched my shoulder. "The important thing is that we talk about it calmly, right? The thing with the house is for everyone's good." "You're right," I said, my expression unchanged. "We'll talk about it properly. Give me a few days to think it over." Her face lit up. She thought she had won. "Of course, mother-in-law, take your time, but you'll see, it's for the best." I ate my breakfast calmly. Tortillas with beans, black coffee, like always. Amber watched me out of the corner of her eye, still suspicious, but I stayed calm. When Daniel came down, I said good morning as if nothing had happened. He looked at me confused. "Mom, about yesterday." "Don't worry, son. It's over. We'll fix everything." I saw the relief in his eyes. The poor fool thought I had given up, that I had finally accepted my fate as a disposable old woman. As soon as they left, Daniel to work Amber to who knows where, I sprang into action. I took out my phone and called Mr. Medina. "Mr. Medina, it's Emily. I need to see you today. It's urgent." "Did something happen, Mrs. Emily?" "Yes, but I'll tell you in person." At 11 in the morning, I was sitting in his office, a small small but tidy place with bookshelves full of legal codes and the smell of fresh coffee. Mr. Medina was a man in his 60s, gray-haired with thick glasses and a serious but kind expression. I told him everything, every detail, from the day Amber and Daniel arrived to the humiliation of the day before. I left nothing out. The lawyer listened without interrupting, just taking notes in his yellow legal pad. When I finished, he took off his glasses and cleaned them with a handkerchief. Mrs. Emily, allow me to be direct. Legally, this is your house. It is solely in your name. You can evict them whenever you want. It's that easy. In theory, yes, but with family, it's complicated. If they refuse to leave, we would have to go the legal route. An eviction proceeding takes time, and it's painful. How much time? Between 4 and 6 months, maybe more if they fight it. I shook my head. I don't have 6 months, Mr. Medina. I need them gone now before they do something worse. Like what? Like convince Daniel to put me in a nursing home, or to declare me incompetent. Amber is capable of anything. The lawyer nodded. Then we need evidence. Document everything. Recordings, messages, witnesses, anything that proves they are manipulating or threatening you. I took out my phone. Does this work? For the last few days, I had started recording conversations without them knowing. I left the phone in my purse with the recorder on and captured everything. Amber talking to her mother about convincing the old woman. Daniel saying, "What can we do? We just have to put up with her a little longer." Every venomous word saved. The lawyer listened to a few snippets. His expression hardened. "This is gold, Mrs. Emily. With this, we can prove manipulation and psychological abuse. So what do? First, open a new bank account. Transfer the rent money there. Make sure they have no access to anything. Already done? Good. Second, make an inventory of everything in the house. Furniture, documents, valuables. Take pictures. If things disappear, we'll have proof. I'll do it today. Third, find a temporary place to stay in case you need to leave the house quickly. I have my sister in Phoenix. Perfect. And fourth, keep acting normal. Don't let them suspect anything. Keep recording. Keep documenting. The more evidence we have, the stronger our case will be. And then, the lawyer smiled, a small smile but full of justice. And then, Mrs. Emily, we deliver the blow. When they least expect it, we get them out of the house legally with evidence, with no way for them to fight back. I left that office with a plan, with a clear objective. For the first time in years, I felt like I was taking back control. The next few days were pure acting. I smiled, I cooked, I chatted with Amber as if nothing was wrong. I even asked her about her family, about her plans, feigning interest. She ate up my performance. She thought she had tamed me. Meanwhile, I documented everything. I photographed every room in the house. I counted the furniture. I checked the deeds, the receipts, everything. I also visited my niece, Lucy, an accountant, and asked her to help me organize my finances. Lucy was a smart woman in her 40s, divorced, and she didn't mince words. "Auntie, why didn't you tell me you were going through this?" "Because I was ashamed, honey. Ashamed that my own son would do this to me." Lucy hugged me. "Auntie, listen to me. Daniel has always been weak. Even as a kid, he let people push him around. But not you. You're one of the tough ones, and we are going to get that viper out of your house." With her help, I organized everything. I knew exactly how much money I had. I knew I could live comfortably on the rents from the properties, that I didn't need a single dollar from Daniel or anyone else. I also did something I never thought I would do. I hired a private investigator. His name was Jack, a thin, quiet man, the kind who goes unnoticed. I paid him $500 to follow Amber for a week. What he discovered chilled my blood. Amber didn't work at any boutique. That was a lie. What she did was spend the money that Daniel worked his tail off to earn. She went to spas, to beauty salons, to expensive restaurants with her friends. She took pictures for Instagram, showing off a life that wasn't hers. But the worst part was this. Jack recorded her talking to her friend in a cafe, and in that conversation, Amber said something that destroyed me. "The old woman is about to cave. Daniel is already convinced to sell." I told him with that money we can buy a condo, and it'll be enough for his mom to go to a nursing home. The idiot believed me. As soon as we sell, we keep everything, and she can go to hell. 3 years of putting up with her, but it's finally paying off. She was laughing while she planned to destroy me. When I heard that recording in Mr. Medina's office, I didn't cry. I had no tears left, only ice. "Is this enough?" I asked. "More than enough. With this, we can prove fraud, manipulation, and conspiracy to commit property theft. When do we act?" "Soon, Mrs. Emily. Very soon. But I need you to do one more thing." "What?" "Get everyone together. Daniel, Amber, her family, at your house, like a family meeting. Let them think you're going to sign papers or agree to the sale. And that's when we confront them. With evidence, with witnesses, with no escape." A knot formed in my stomach. "Are you sure?" "Completely. It's the only way they can't twist the story later. It will make it clear who is who." I nodded. For 2 more weeks, I kept up my act. I even told Amber I was considering the sale, that I wanted to talk to everyone to get on the same page. She was thrilled, practically jumping for joy. She told her family. They organized everything. They even brought a real estate contact, a friend of Stephen's, to appraise the house. Poor fools. They didn't know I already had my own team, my own plan, my own trap ready to spring. And when they fell, when they saw their whole castle of lies come crashing down, I would be standing there, tall, firm, with my head held high, because this war wasn't just about getting my house back, it was about getting my dignity back. The night of the confrontation was about to arrive, and what would happen in that living room would change everyone's life forever. There are moments in life where everything converges at a single point, where all the pieces you moved in silence finally fit together, where the chessboard reveals its true form and checkmate is just one move away. That day had arrived. It was Saturday, 3 in the afternoon. The sun streamed through my living room windows, illuminating every corner. I had cleaned everything that morning. I wanted the house to be spotless, not for them, but because what was about to happen deserved a worthy stage. Amber had organized everything, of course. She invited her parents, her brother Ryan, and her Aunt Beatrice. She even brought a guy named Oscar Reynolds, the supposed property appraiser, who was Stephen's friend, with his briefcase and calculator ready to put on his show. I had also invited my people. My sister Dorothy came from Phoenix. She arrived early, hugged me tight, and whispered in my ear, "Today, justice is served, Emily. Today, you take back what's yours." Mr. Medina was also there, sitting discreetly in a chair in the dining room with his worn leather briefcase. Amber had seen him come in and asked me who he was. "A friend of the family," I told her with a smile. "I want him to be present so that everything is clear." She suspected nothing. She was too excited counting the money she thought she was going to get. By 3:15, everyone was seated in my living room. Stephen in the main armchair, his belly peeking out from his shirt. Brenda at his side with that sour look that never left her face. Ryan glued to his phone. Beatrice eating my cookies without asking. And Oscar Reynolds, the fake appraiser, arranging papers on the coffee table. Daniel was quiet, sitting next to Amber with sweaty palms and a lost look in his eyes. Maybe deep down, he knew something wasn't right. Maybe his conscience was screaming at him that this was wrong, but he was too much of a coward to listen. Amber took my arm when I walked in. "Mother-in-law, so glad you're here. Look, this is Mr. Reynolds. He's going to explain how much the house is worth and how we can make a quick sale. Isn't it exciting?" "Very exciting," I said without any emotion. I sat in the chair next to Mr. Medina. Dorothy stood behind me, her hands on my shoulders. Her silent support gave me strength. Oscar Reynolds cleared his throat. "Well, Mrs. Emily, it's a pleasure to meet you." He pulled out some papers. "I've done a preliminary appraisal of the property based on its characteristics, the area, the state of conservation, and I estimate the commercial value of this house is approximately $240,000. They all smiled, as if he had just announced they'd won the lottery. "Now then," Oscar continued, "the ideal thing would be to sell quickly. I have several interested clients. We could close the deal in 2 weeks and divide the money as the family agrees." Stephen rubbed his hands together. "See, Mrs. Emily, that's a lot of money. More than enough for everyone." "Of course," Brenda added. "Brenda, you take your share. You buy yourself something comfortable and small, and the kids start their life." Amber squeezed Daniel's hand. He still wouldn't look at me. "And how much would my share be?" I asked in a calm voice. Oscar checked his calculator. "Well, considering you're the original owner, but that your son and daughter-in-law have lived here and contributed to the maintenance." "They haven't contributed anything," I interrupted. "I pay the electricity, I pay the water, I pay the property taxes. I pay for everything." An uncomfortable silence fell. Amber laughed nervously. "Oh, mother-in-law, don't be like that. We help you with other things. Right, honey?" Daniel nodded without conviction. Oscar cleared his throat. "Well, anyway, the fair thing would be to divide the amount in equitable parts. Let's say $80,000 for you and the rest for the couple. $80,000 from my own house, from the house I paid for with 30 years of sweat." I stared at Oscar Reynolds, then at Stephen, then at Amber. "And what if I don't want to sell?" Amber's smile wavered. "What do you mean you don't want to sell? But we already agreed." "I never agreed to anything, Amber. You decided for me, as always." Stephen stood up from the armchair. "Mrs. Emily, don't make this difficult. We already talked about this. It's what's best for everyone." "Best for everyone," I repeated. "Or best for you," Brenda huffed. I knew she was going to back out. It always happens with old people. They get stubborn. Something in me clicked. The trigger was pulled. "Mr. Medina," I said without taking my eyes off Amber, "I think it's time." The lawyer stood up and took several documents from his briefcase. "Who is this man?" Amber asked suspiciously. "I am Reuben Medina, attorney at law. I represent the legal interests of Mrs. Emily Montoya." "An attorney? Why do you need an attorney?" Stephen frowned. To protect what is hers, Mr. Medina replied in a firm voice. Ladies and gentlemen, I regret to inform you that this meeting is not what you think it is. Amber shot up. What is going on here? What's going on? I said, standing up too. Is that the show is over? I took a small portable speaker from my purse, one I had bought specifically for this moment. I connected it to my phone. What are you doing, mother-in-law? Showing you who you really are, Amber. And I pressed play. Amber's voice filled the room. Clear, crisp, unmistakable. The old woman is about to cave. Daniel is already convinced to sell. I told him with that money we can buy a condo and it'll be enough for his mom to go to a nursing home. The idiot believed me. As soon as we sell, we keep everything and she can go to hell. The silence was deafening. Stephen turned pale. Brenda's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Ryan looked up from his phone for the first time all afternoon. Amber took a step back. That's edited. I didn't say that. Edited, I asked. Do you want me to play more? I pressed play on another recording. This time it was Amber talking to her mother. I'm telling you, Mom, the old woman is getting up there. She's not going to last much longer. When she dies, all this goes to Daniel, and Daniel does what I say. Brenda's laugh echoed in the background, that laugh that had chilled my blood that night. Brenda stood up. Emily, I didn't... Shut up, I told her with a coldness I didn't even recognize in myself. I had to listen to you mock me in my own house. Now it's your turn to listen. I played a third recording, Amber telling Daniel, your mom is old, honey. She won't even notice the car. Besides, she doesn't even use it. It's money we need more than she does. Daniel jumped up from the couch. His face was red. I didn't know if it was from shame or anger. Mom, you knew they were going to sell my car and you let it happen. It wasn't like that. No. Then how was it, Daniel? He didn't know what to say. Mr. Medina took the floor. Ladies and gentlemen, I have documented evidence here of psychological manipulation, conspiracy to commit property theft and fraud. He placed the papers on the table. Mrs. Emily has every legal right to evict you from this property. And believe me, we will. Amber started to cry, but they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of rage, tears of anger because her plan had failed. You set us up, she yelled, pointing at me. You recorded us without permission. That's illegal. In this state, Mr. Medina explained, recording conversations you are a part of is completely legal, and all these recordings were made in Mrs. Emily's presence. Stephen approached me. For a moment I thought he was going to yell at me, but his voice came out small, ashamed. Mrs. Emily, I didn't know my daughter. Of course you knew, I interrupted. You were here the day they told me to go to a nursing home. You laughed along. You thought I was a stupid old woman you could push around. He didn't know what to say. He turned and looked at his daughter. Amber, is all this true? She didn't answer. She just cried, but they were the tears of a trapped snake. Beatrice stood up from the couch, her bracelets jangling. Well, I better be going. I have nothing to do with this. Sit down, I ordered, because you were here too, suggesting I go to a nursing home. You are all just as guilty. Oscar Reynolds, the appraiser, nervously gathered his papers. I didn't know. You're not going anywhere either, Mr. Medina said. Impersonating a professional appraiser is fraud. I have witnesses to your performance. The man turned pale. I looked at Daniel. He had tears in his eyes. His hands were shaking. Mom, forgive me. I didn't want... You don't want my forgiveness, Daniel. You want me to take away your guilt. I walked over to him. You had 1,000 chances to defend me. 1,000 chances to tell your wife to stop. 1,000 chances to be the son I raised. I love you, Mom. No, you need me. That's not the same thing. I turned and addressed all of them. You have 15 days to vacate my house. And I say my house because it is in my name, solely in my name. You can check the deeds if you want. Mr. Medina placed the deeds on the table. Here it is, sole and exclusive property of Emily Montoya, widow of Solis. No liens, no co-owners. Amber collapsed onto the couch. Stephen had his head in his hands. Brenda was crying with rage. Ryan was still in shock. 15 days, I repeated. And if you don't leave, my attorney will proceed legally. And believe me, with all the evidence I have, you will not win. Dorothy hugged me from behind. Her support kept me standing. And one more thing, I added, looking at Amber. I know you don't work. I know you spend my son's salary on spas and restaurants. I know you've been living a lie, and now everyone knows it. Amber lifted her face. Her eyes were full of hatred. And what about you, lady? You think you're so perfect. You're a bitter old woman who can't stand to see her son happy. Amber, shut up. Stephen said in a tired voice. I won't shut up. She stood up and pointed at me. You don't understand, Daniel, and I needed that money. We have debts, we have plans, we can't keep living like this. Then work, I told her coldly, like decent people do. She lunged at me. Dorothy stepped between us. Mr. Medina did too. Mrs. Amber, I recommend you control yourself, the lawyer warned. Any physical assault will be documented and used against you. Daniel grabbed Amber by the arm. That's enough. Let's go. Go! Go where? She screamed. We have nowhere to go. That's not my problem anymore, I said. You should have thought of that before. And one by one they left. Stephen without looking at me, Brenda muttering curses, Beatrice with her head down, Ryan running to the car, Oscar Reynolds nearly tripping on his way out. Amber stopped at the door. She looked at me with a hatred that could have burned the house down. This isn't over. Yes, it is, I replied. And if you try anything, I have more evidence than you can imagine. She left slamming the door. Daniel just stood there in the middle of the living room like a lost child. Mom, the 15 days start today, I told him. There's no going back, Daniel. What if I talk to her? What if we do things right? It's 3 years too late for that. His eyes filled with tears. Then I've lost my mom. No, you chose to lose me. He walked out of the house. I heard Amber's car start, heard them drive away down the street. When the silence returned, I let myself fall onto the couch. Dorothy sat next to me. Mr. Medina packed up his documents. You did very well, Mrs. Emily, he said with respect. I know it wasn't easy. No, I admitted, but it was necessary. Dorothy hugged me. Now your real life begins, sister. I looked around my living room, my house, my space. It would soon be mine alone again. And even though my chest ached, even though I felt something had broken forever between Daniel and me, for the first time in years, I felt free. But the story wouldn't end there. The following days would bring surprises Emily never imagined. The days after the confrontation were strange, like living in a haunted house where the ghosts haven't left yet, but you know they no longer have any power over you. Daniel and Amber didn't leave immediately. Legally, they had their 15 days, but living together was unbearable. Amber stopped pretending. There was no more sweet-voiced mother-in-law, no more fake smiles. Now she looked at me with the pure hatred of someone who had a prize snatched away. A prize she thought she had already won. She locked herself in her room most of the day. She talked on the phone, screaming at her mom, at her friends, crying and playing the victim. They kicked me out of the house. The old woman set a trap for us, after everything we did for her. It's so easy to change the story when it suits you, isn't it? Daniel was different. He moved through the house like a zombie. He left early for work, came home late. He avoided my gaze. He tried to talk to me twice. The first time was in the kitchen one morning. I was making coffee, my coffee, in my kitchen, when he came in. Mom, can we talk? What do you want to talk about, Daniel? He was quiet for a moment. He had dark circles under his eyes. He looked older than he was. About everything. About how we got to this. About if there's any way to fix it. I put my cup in the sink and looked at him directly. Fix what exactly? The fact that you sold my car without my permission, or that you planned to send me to a nursing home, or that your wife called me the old woman while she ate my food. I didn't know all of that, Mom. Yes, you did. Maybe not the details, but you knew something was wrong, and you chose not to see. He ran his hands over his face. That gesture he'd made since he was a kid when he was overwhelmed. It's just, Amber, she pressured me. She said we needed money, that you were getting older and you believed her. I interrupted. You believed her instead of defending me. He didn't know what to answer. That's what hurts the most, son. Not that you made a mistake, but that when you had to choose between her and me, you left me alone. His eyes welled up. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm truly sorry. I know, but sorry doesn't bring back the 3 years I spent feeling like a stranger in my own home. It doesn't bring back my car. It doesn't bring back my dignity. I left the kitchen. I left him there crying. And no, I didn't feel sorry for him, because sometimes pain is the only teacher we have. The second time he tried to talk was worse. It was at night. I was in my room reviewing documents with Mr. Medina on the phone when I heard screaming, loud screaming. Daniel and Amber were fighting. I went down the stairs slowly. I stood in the hallway listening. This is your fault, Amber screamed. Your fault for being so weak. If you had talked to your mom properly, we'd have the money by now. Don't start, Amber. You were the one who got clever with the car, because you never do anything. You just let everyone walk all over you. Your mom, your boss, everyone. You're useless. There was a crash. Something broke. Maybe a plate. Maybe a lamp. That's enough, Daniel yelled. I'm sick of all of this. Sick of your tantrums, of your whims, of your lies. My lies. You knew everything. You knew we needed that money to pay off the credit cards, but now you're playing the innocent victim. I never said I agreed with kicking my mom out of her house, but you didn't say no, did you? Silence. A silence that said everything. You're a coward, Daniel. You always have been. And you're a— He didn't finish the sentence. I heard fast footsteps. A door slammed. I just stood there, in the darkness of the hallway, my heart pounding, not from fear, but from sadness, because I was watching my son's marriage fall apart before my eyes. And the worst part was, I was the one who had pulled the first stone, but I didn't regret it. The next day, Amber started packing, angrily, throwing clothes into suitcases, accidentally breaking things, muttering curses every time she passed near me. I said nothing. I just watched, mentally documenting everything she took in case she tried to steal something that wasn't hers. One afternoon, there was a knock at the door. It was Brenda, Amber's mom. She came alone. "Mrs. Emily, can I come in?" I hesitated for a moment, but something in her expression, tired, defeated, made me open the door. We went into the living room. I offered her coffee. She accepted. We sat in uncomfortable silence. She stirred her coffee with the small spoon. Without drinking, finally she spoke. "I came to apologize. I wasn't expecting that. I shouldn't have said that about the nursing home. I shouldn't have treated you like that. You didn't deserve it. Why did you do it?" I asked straight to the point. Brenda sighed. "Because my daughter convinced me. She told me you had agreed, that you wanted to sell, that everything was arranged, and we just had to convince you a little more. And you believed her?" "Yes, because she's my daughter. And you want to believe your children aren't capable of certain things." She looked up. But after hearing those recordings, I realized I don't know my daughter. Or maybe I do, and I just didn't want to see it. Has Amber always been like this? Brenda looked down. Since she was little, she always wanted more than we had, always comparing. "Look, Mom, the girl across the street has this. Why can't we have that? We spoiled her. We gave her everything we could and more, and we created a monster." Tears streamed down her face, but they were real tears, not like Amber's. "Stephen and I are getting a divorce," she confessed. "This was the last straw. We've been in a bad place for years, and seeing how our daughter behaved, it made us realize a lot of things. I didn't know what to say. Sometimes other people's pain doesn't need words. I'm sorry, Mrs. Emily. I'm truly sorry, and I understand if you don't forgive me, but I needed to tell you." She got up to leave. At the door, she stopped. "Take care of your son. Daniel is a good person, weak, but a good person. My daughter will destroy him if he doesn't get away," and she left. The following days were a countdown. 13 days, 12, 10, 8. Amber arranged for them to stay with her parents in that small 2-bedroom apartment that the 4 of them would now have to share. The irony was delicious. Daniel packed in silence. He packed his clothes, his shoes, a few books. He left a lot of things behind, as if he knew he wouldn't need them again. The night before they left, he came down to the living room. I was watching TV. "Mom, can I sit?" I nodded. He sat in the armchair opposite me, the one that was his dad's. "We're leaving tomorrow." "I know. And I don't know if I'll be back." That hurt, even though I knew it was likely hearing it from his mouth was different. "That's up to you, Daniel. The door was always open. You were the one who closed it." "I know." He rubbed his hands nervously. "I'm thinking about separating from Amber." I looked up surprised. "Are you serious?" "Yeah. These last few days, I've realized a lot of things. About how she manipulated me. About how she changed my relationship with you. About how—" his voice broke. "About how I became someone I don't recognize. And why don't you leave her now?" "Because I'm scared, Mom. Scared of being alone. Scared that you're right, and I am a coward." I got up and sat next to him. I took his hand. "Son, being scared doesn't make you a coward. What makes you a coward is letting fear make your decisions for you. Do you think there's still time to fix this between you and me?" I looked him in the eyes, those eyes I had known since he was born, that I had seen cry when he fell as a child, that I had seen shine when he graduated, that were now broken. "I don't know, Daniel. That's going to depend on what you do from now on, whether you learn from this, or whether you go back to making the same mistakes. I want to learn, Mom. I want to be better. Then start by making your own decisions. Not the ones Amber tells you, not the ones I tell you, yours." We hugged, and in that hug I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. Small, fragile, but it was there. The next day at 9 in the morning, a moving truck arrived. Amber came out with the suitcases without saying goodbye, without looking back, as if I didn't exist. Daniel loaded the last boxes. At the door, he stopped. "Thanks, Mom, for everything, even though I don't deserve it. Take care, son." He got into the truck. Amber was already inside, arms crossed with that sour look that was becoming permanent on her face. They drove off. I watched them go down the street until they turned the corner and disappeared. I closed the door. I stood in the entryway, in the most absolute silence I had experienced in 3 years. And then, for the first time since this all began, I smiled. My house was empty, but it was mine again. again, and that's where Emily's true rebirth would begin. Because sometimes to get your life back, you first have to lose everything. There's a silence that hurts, the silence of loneliness, the silence of abandonment, and there's a silence that heals, the silence of peace, the silence of getting back what is yours. That first day alone in my house was the second kind. I stood in the middle of the living room for I don't know how long, just breathing, smelling my space without Amber's cheap perfume, without the sound of her fake laugh, without the tension of always being on alert, always watching my back, always measuring my words so I wouldn't start a conflict. I walked through every room, slowly, like reclaiming recovered territory. I went into what had been their room. It was a disaster. Clothes thrown around, drawers open, stains on the wall where they had stuck posters without my permission. It smelled like confinement and pent-up anger. I threw the windows wide open. I let the air in, the light, and I started to clean. I didn't hire anyone. I did it myself, with my own 2 hands, because I needed to erase every trace of them, every footprint, every toxic memory. I scrubbed the floor, I washed the walls, I changed the sheets on all the beds, I took out the furniture they had brought, those cold modern things that never fit with the soul of my house, and I left them on the street for anyone to take. It took me 3 days to clean everything. 3 days where I didn't answer the phone. I didn't talk to anyone. I just dedicated myself to taking back my space. On the 4th day, Dorothy came from Phoenix. "Oh, sister, the house looks beautiful," she said when she walked in. "Because it's mine again." She helped me rearrange the furniture. We took the things Amber had stored on the top shelves out of the closet. My good dishes, the paintings of Victor and me, my mom's embroidered pillows. Little by little, the house went back to being what it was, a home, not a battlefield. One afternoon while we were drinking coffee in the kitchen, Dorothy asked me, "And what are you going to do now, Emily? What do you mean, with your life? You got your house back. You got that weight off your shoulders. But what's next?" I thought about it. I was 67 years old. I had my health, money from the rents, a paid-off house, freedom. "I don't know," I admitted. "It's been so long since I've thought about myself. I don't even know what I like anymore." Dorothy smiled. "Then it's time you found out." And she was right. I started small. First, I invited my friends over again, Hazel, Edna, and Mrs. C. I explained everything that had happened. They hugged me, supported me, told me what I already knew, that I had done the right thing. Thursdays became sacred again. Cards, coffee, healthy gossip laughter, the kind of laughter that comes from the soul when you're with people who truly love you. Then I worked up the nerve to do something I had wanted to do for years. I signed up for dance classes. Yes, dancing. At the community center, they offered ballroom dancing on Tuesdays and Thursdays. The first time I went, I was nervous. What am I doing here at my age? I thought. But as soon as the music started, that slow, elegant rhythm, and the instructor taught me the steps, something in me woke up. It was freedom. It was joy. It was feeling my body move without being afraid of bothering anyone. I also resumed my routine of going to church on Sundays, not because I was especially religious, but because I liked the peace of being there. My faith had always been with me in the difficult times. Now I was going to give thanks, but there was one thing left, something I needed to close the loop on: my car. One Saturday morning, I asked my niece Lucy to come with me. We went to the mechanic's shop where Amber and Daniel had sold it, a small place in an industrial park with 3 dismantled cars in the lot and the smell of burnt oil. The owner was an older, thin man in stained overalls and a baseball cap. "Good morning," I said. "I'm here to ask about a green sedan you bought a few weeks ago. License plate." The man scratched his head. "Oh yeah, that one. I bought it for $2,500. "Why?" "Because it's mine. They sold it to me without my permission." The man got nervous. "Look, lady, I didn't know anything about that. A young guy and his wife came and offered it to me. They said it was theirs. I paid in good faith." "I know, and I don't blame you. But that car has great sentimental value for me. Do you still have it?" "Yeah, it's out back. I was going to fix it up to resell it." "Would you sell it back to me?" The man looked at me surprised. "You want to buy it?" "Yes." "How much?" "Well, it cost me $2,500, plus the repairs I did, about $700. Let's say $200, and it's yours." I took out my wallet. I counted out the cash I had taken from the bank that same day. "Here's your $200, and I want the papers in order, please." The man couldn't believe it, but he agreed. Half an hour later, I was sitting in the driver's seat of my green sedan again, my hands on the wheel, smelling that old vinyl smell and the pine tree air fresheners Victor always bought. I cried, but this time from happiness. "Ready, Auntie?" Lucy asked from the passenger seat. "Ready." I started the car, and I drove back home with the music turned up loud. Old songs from Frank Sinatra, from Elvis, the kind that make you feel alive. When I got to my house and pulled the car into the garage, into that garage that Amber said had space now, I felt like I had closed a circle. I had gotten it all back. My house, my dignity, my car, my life. But then something unexpected happened. 6 months after they left, I got a call. It was Daniel. "Mom, can we meet?" My heart skipped a beat. I hadn't heard from him in all that time. Not one call, not one message, nothing. "Where are you?" I asked. "At a cafe near your house, the one on the corner. Can you come?" I hesitated for a moment, but something in his voice, something broken, something humble, made me say yes. When I got to the cafe, I saw him sitting at a table in the back, alone, without Amber. He looked different, thinner, with a few days' worth of beard, simple clothes. He wasn't wearing those expensive shirts Amber used to buy him. I sat down across from him. "Hi, Mom." "Hi, son." He ordered 2 coffees. We sat in silence for a moment. Those uncomfortable silences when there's so much to say you don't know where to start. "I left Amber," he finally said, "when 3 months ago. The divorce is already in process." "What happened?" He gave a bitter laugh. "Everything. Living with her parents was hell. She blamed me for everything. I blamed her for the car, for the lies. We fought every day. Her parents started fighting with each other too. It was unbearable." "And where are you living now?" "I'm renting a room. It's small, but it's mine. I'm working at another factory. I earn less, but I'm more at peace." I saw him with new eyes. He was no longer the weak man who had let his wife trample me. He was someone who was, for the first time in years, making his own decisions. "So, why are you looking for me now?" I asked. His eyes filled with tears. "Because I need to ask you for forgiveness, Mom. For real. Not just words. A real apology. I know I don't deserve for you to forgive me. I know I failed you in the worst way. But," his voice broke, "I don't want to live the rest of my life without my mom." He extended his hand across the table. It was trembling. I looked at that hand, my son's hand, the hand I had held when he was learning to walk, the hand that had let go of mine when I needed it most. And after a moment that felt like an eternity, I took it. "I'm not going to lie to you, Daniel. It still hurts, and it's going to take time for things to be like they were. I know, but you're my son, and you always will be." He broke down crying, a cry of relief, of release. We stayed there in that cafe, talking for hours. He told me everything, how Amber had manipulated him from the beginning, how she slowly pushed him away from me, how he realized everything too late. He also asked me for something. "Can I visit you? Not to live with you, just to see you, to get back what we lost." "Yes," I said, "but under my rules and on my terms. I'll accept anything, Mom." And that's how our reconciliation began, slowly, carefully, like one of those broken vases you glue back together with patience, knowing it will never be the same, but that it can be just as valuable. Daniel started visiting me on Sundays. We ate together, we talked. Sometimes there were awkward silences. Sometimes he would say something and I would remember the pain and have to take a deep breath, but we were trying, and that was more than I thought I would have. A year after all the drama, I was sitting on my patio with my coffee looking at the rose bushes that Victor had planted when Daniel was born. The house was at peace. My friends came and went. I danced my ballroom dances. I drove my car wherever I wanted. I lived on the money from my rents without asking anyone for anything. Daniel came every week. Sometimes he brought me flowers, sometimes just his company. We were healing, slowly, but healing. And Amber had gone back to Florida to live with an aunt. I heard through the grapevine that her parents got divorced, that she tried to latch onto another man with money, but it didn't work, that she was working in a clothing store, bitter, blaming the world for her problems. Poetic justice had done its job. I thought about Victor, about how he had planned all this, even from his hospital bed, about how he had left me the tools to defend myself. "Thank you, my love," I whispered to the wind. "You kept your promise. You took care of me, even when you were gone." And there in that peaceful afternoon, I understood something important, that sometimes losing the people you thought you needed is the only way to find yourself, that a mother's love doesn't mean letting yourself be trampled, that dignity is not negotiable, not even with your own blood, and that it is never ever too late to take your life back. Because true wealth isn't in what you own, it's in what you refuse to let them take from you. If this story touched your heart, if it made you feel that you too can reclaim your dignity, leave me a comment. Tell me, have you ever had to set boundaries with someone you loved? Where are you watching from? Give it a like if Emily inspired you, and subscribe to keep sharing life stories like this. Because here in this space, all voices matter. All stories deserve to be heard, and all the women who once felt invisible deserve to remember that they are warriors. See you in the next story.